He mocked the Latina janitor on her first day, but he never imagined who she really was. Samantha Parker took a deep breath before pushing the glass door of the mirrored building in New York City's business district. It was her first day as a janitor at Wilson Construction and Associates, one of the largest real estate companies in the country, and her hands trembled slightly as she held the bucket of cleaning supplies. That's when Bradley Wilson Jr., the company's vice president and son of the founder, appeared in the main hallway carrying a cup of coffee. Seeing Samantha in the blue uniform of the outsourced cleaning service, a malicious smile curled his lips. "Oh, another one," muttered Bradley, deliberately spilling the hot coffee on the freshly waxed marble floor. "Clean that up, Puerto Rican. And this time do it right, on your knees like you people know how." Samantha felt her blood boil but kept her expression neutral. She wasn't Puerto Rican. She was descended from Dominicans who had come to the United States decades ago, but she knew that to men like Bradley, all immigrants were the same. Without a word, she knelt and began wiping up the spilled coffee as he recorded the scene on his phone. "Look how cute," Bradley said to two colleagues passing by. "The new maid already knows her place. Bet she can't even speak proper English." Samantha wiped every drop of the brown liquid, discreetly eyeing Bradley's expensive Italian shoes, the same kind her late father used to wear to business meetings. The irony wasn't lost on her. When she finished, she stood and looked Bradley directly in the eyes. For a moment, he seemed uneasy under the intensity of her gaze, but he quickly regained his usual arrogance. "What? You want something?" he snapped. "Nothing, sir," Samantha replied in an exaggerated accent that didn't match her true education. "Just wondering if there's anything else you want me to clean." Bradley laughed loudly and walked away, satisfied with what he took as submission. Samantha watched him disappear into the executive elevator, her hands gripping the mop handle tighter than necessary. In the days that followed, the humiliation became routine. Bradley seemed to take sadistic pleasure in making Samantha's life hell. He deliberately dropped things in front of her, made comments about her background, and always ensured there were witnesses to his jokes. During the second week, Samantha was cleaning the executive restroom when she overheard voices from the adjacent meeting room. The wall was thin, and she could clearly hear Bradley speaking with foreign investors. "The East Bronx project is going great," Bradley said in fluent English. "We've already relocated 80% of the families in the area. The rest will be out soon, especially after we cut off their water and electricity." Samantha stopped cleaning and listened closely. She knew that area. It was where her childhood nanny, Gladys, still lived. "What about the complaints to the district attorney's office?" asked a voice with an American accent. "Already handled," Bradley replied cynically. "A small donation to the DA's campaign, and poof, the case magically disappeared." Samantha's stomach turned. Those families were being forced out through blackmail and corruption. She discreetly pulled out her phone and began recording the conversation. That night, Samantha returned to her small apartment in Brooklyn Heights and called Gladys. The elderly woman's voice was heavy with sadness. "Oh, honey, things here are terrible," Gladys said. "They cut off our water yesterday. They claim it's a pipe issue, but everyone knows it's harassment. They want us to leave so they can build a shopping mall in its place." "Mrs. Gladys, do you have all the paperwork for the house?" "Yes, dear. My husband bought this land 40 years ago. Everything's legal. But they say the documents are worthless, that there's some irregularity at the records office." Samantha closed her eyes, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. That woman had taken care of her when she lost her mother at 6 years old. She'd been like a second mother. Seeing Mrs. Gladys suffer like this was unbearable. The next day, Samantha arrived at the office determined to gather more evidence. While cleaning Bradley Jr.'s office, she noticed several documents scattered across his desk. As she dusted the furniture, she discreetly snapped photos of some contracts and spreadsheets. "Hey, Puerto Rican!" Bradley shouted, startling her as he walked in. "What are you doing at my desk?" "Just cleaning, sir," Samantha replied, feigning surprise. "You told me to make everything shine." Bradley eyed her suspiciously, but saw nothing out of place. Samantha had quickly hidden her phone among the cleaning supplies. "Next time, let me know before cleaning my office," he said sharply. "And be careful with the papers. They're important documents." "Yes, sir." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now, back to the story. In the following weeks, Samantha developed a careful strategy to gather information. She arrived earlier and stayed later, always listening for conversations and keeping an eye on carelessly left-out documents. Her knowledge of English and Spanish, gained from years studying abroad, proved crucial in understanding the international dealings. During a late-night cleaning session, Samantha found a forgotten folder in the conference room. Inside were land purchase contracts with prices far below market value, all signed by families from the East Bronx. As she examined them, she realized many signatures looked forged. "What a coincidence running into you here," came a woman's voice behind her. Samantha turned, startled, and saw Margaret Johnson, the 70-year-old secretary of Bradley Wilson Sr., the company's founder. Margaret was known for her discretion and efficiency. She'd worked there for over 30 years. "Sorry, Mrs. Johnson," Samantha said quickly. "I was just cleaning and—" "Relax, dear," Margaret interrupted with a sad smile. "I know what you're doing, and honestly, someone needs to do something." Samantha stayed silent, unsure how to respond. "You think I don't notice what's happening here?" Margaret continued, sitting in a chair. "I've worked here since before Bradley Jr. was born, watched him grow up and become what he is today. It's a disgrace to the family name." You know about the East Bronx properties?" Margaret sighed deeply. "I do, and much more than that. Bradley Jr. is using the company for money laundering, bribing public officials, and a whole list of things that would make his father turn in his grave." "Mr. Wilson Sr. passed away 2 years ago," Margaret replied mournfully. "He was a principled man, built this company on honesty and hard work. If he knew what his son was doing—" Samantha stepped closer. "Why haven't you reported it? And who'd believe an old secretary over the heir to a real estate empire?" Margaret laughed bitterly. "Besides, he's got connections everywhere. Prosecutors, judges, politicians. I've tried a few times, but the cases always disappear." At that moment, Samantha made a decision that would change everything. "Mrs. Johnson, what if I told you I could help?" "How so, dear?" Samantha hesitated for a moment, but decided to trust the older woman. "I'm not who he thinks I am. I have degrees in law and business, studied abroad. I'm here for a specific reason." Margaret looked at her with renewed interest. "Go on." "My father was Richard Parker. He had business dealings with the construction company a few years ago." Margaret's face paled. "Richard Parker, the Dominican investor who helped finance several of the company's projects?" "Exactly. He passed away in a car accident 6 months ago, but before that he left a significant stake in the company through an offshore holding. I came to the United States to better understand his business and see if the partnership was being managed properly." "My God," Margaret murmured. "That means you're a partner in the company, yes. And from what I can see, my father would have had no idea what's happening here." From that day on, Samantha and Margaret began working together secretly. The secretary, who had access to privileged information, started providing documents and details about Bradley Jr.'s illegal operations. Samantha, in turn, used her legal knowledge to identify the crimes and organize the evidence. One particularly tense morning, Bradley was especially aggressive. He had argued with his father the night before over some questionable investments and decided to take out his frustration on Samantha. "Hey, maid," he shouted down the hallway in front of several employees. "Come clean my office now and do it right this time, because yesterday it reeked of cheap cleaning products." Samantha obeyed silently, but inside, she was seething with anger. When she entered the office, Bradley closed the door behind her. "You know what?" he said, stepping dangerously close. "I think you need to learn to be more cooperative. How about lunch together today? I can show you how things work around here." Samantha felt disgusted by the implication, but kept her submissive demeanor. "I can't, sir. I have work to do." "It wasn't a request," Bradley said with a cruel smile. "It was an order." "And if I refuse?" Bradley laughed loudly. "So you don't have a choice. I decide who stays and who goes in this company, and I can make your life very difficult if you don't cooperate." Samantha stared at him for a long moment. "Are you harassing me?" "I'm offering you an opportunity," he replied, moving even closer. Either you accept or you can go look for another job. It was then that Samantha realized she had reached her limit. She couldn't take his treatment any longer, nor let Bradley keep thinking he could do whatever he wanted with people. "You know what, Bradley?" she said, dropping the fake accent completely. "I don't think you know who you're talking to." Bradley stopped, surprised by the sudden shift in Samantha's tone. "What did you say?" "I said you don't know who you're talking to," Samantha repeated, now speaking with perfect diction and standing tall. "What the hell is going on here? You're not who you thought." "No, definitely not." Bradley took a few steps back, confused and angry. "Who the hell are you?" Samantha smiled for the first time since she'd started working there. "My name is Samantha Parker. I have a law degree from Harvard University and a master's in business administration from Columbia University. And oh yes, I'm also your partner in this company." "What? That's impossible. My father, Richard Parker, heavily invested in this construction company years ago. When he passed away, I inherited all his shares. That makes me the owner of 42% of Wilson Construction and Associates." Bradley's face turned white as a sheet. "You're lying." Samantha opened her bag and pulled out a folder of documents. "Here's all the proof. Stock certificates, deeds of participation, business registry records, all duly authenticated and legalized." Bradley took the documents with trembling hands and began flipping through them. His expression gradually shifted from skepticism to absolute panic. This can't be true," he murmured. "Oh, it is. And you know what else? During these 2 months working here, I've gathered enough evidence to sue you for emotional abuse, sexual harassment, racial discrimination, corruption, money laundering, and a whole list of other crimes." "You can't prove anything." Samantha smiled again and pulled out her phone. "Oh, I can. I've recorded all our conversations, photographed documents, and have witnesses. And best of all, I have a very special ally in this company." As if on cue, the door opened and Margaret walked in carrying a file box. "Good afternoon, Bradley," said the secretary in a formal tone. "I brought all the documents Ms. Parker requested." "Margaret, what is the meaning of this? How dare you?" "How dare I what?" Margaret interrupted firmly. "Do what's right. Protect your father's legacy. Bradley, I've worked for your family for over 30 years. I watched you be born, grow up, graduate, and now I see you destroying everything your father built. You have no right to interfere in my business." "But she does," said Samantha, pointing to herself. "As the majority shareholder, I have access to all company records, and what I've found is absolutely shocking." Samantha opened the box Margaret had brought and began pulling out organized folders. "Here we have fake contracts for land acquisitions in the East Bronx. Here, records of illegal payments to public officials. And here, the most interesting of all, suspicious transfers to offshore accounts." Bradley tried to grab the documents, but Samantha swiftly pulled them away. "Oh no, these are copies. The originals are already in a safe place, along with lawyers I trust." "What do you want?" asked Bradley, defeated. "Justice," Samantha replied simply. "I want the families in the East Bronx to get their homes back. I want the employees of this company to be treated with dignity. And I want you to pay for your crimes. If you report me, you'll ruin the company. You'll lose money too." "I already have money," Samantha said calmly. "My father left me far more than just shares in this company. What I don't have is patience for men like you." Bradley fell silent for a few minutes, processing the situation. Finally, he asked, "What are you proposing?" "First, you'll return all the East Bronx properties to the rightful families. Second, you'll compensate for all damages caused. Third, you'll resign as vice president and step away from the company's management entirely. And if I refuse, then I'll go straight to the press, the district attorney's office, the Internal Revenue Service, and every relevant authority. With the evidence I have, you'll spend the next 10 years in prison." Bradley looked at Margaret, searching for some kind of support, but the secretary only shook her head in disapproval. "You have 24 hours to decide," said Samantha, gathering the documents. "I expect an answer by tomorrow." That night, Samantha returned home exhausted but relieved. She had finally revealed herself and confronted Bradley. She called Miss Gladys to share the news. "My dear," the elderly woman exclaimed. "I can't believe it. Are you really the Samantha I took care of when you were just a little girl?" "It's me, Miss Gladys. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, but I needed to find out what was really going on." "Oh, what a thrill. So, do you think he'll accept your terms?" "We'll see. If he's smart, he will. If he's as proud as I imagine, we'll have to go for a direct confrontation." The next morning, Samantha arrived at the office wearing an elegant black suit, her hair down and a completely different demeanor from the submissive janitor of the past 2 months. She went straight up to the executive floor, ignoring the surprised looks from the employees. Margaret greeted her with a proud smile. "How are you feeling, dear?" "Free," Samantha replied. "I can finally be myself." "Bradley came in early today," Margaret informed her. "He's been in his office since 7 this morning. I don't think he slept all night. Let's see what his decision is." Samantha knocked on Bradley's office door and entered without waiting for a response. He was seated behind his desk, looking like he'd been up all night. "Well?" Samantha asked directly. "You've destroyed my life," Bradley said in a tired voice. "No, Bradley. You destroyed your own life with your choices. I'm just giving you a chance to make things right." "I accept your terms," he murmured without looking up. "All of them?" "All of them." Samantha felt a mix of victory and compassion. Even after everything he'd done, it was hard not to pity him in his defeat. "Good. Margaret will prepare all the necessary documents. You have 1 week to return the properties and 2 weeks to step away from the company. And then, what happens to me? That depends on you. If you fulfill all the agreements and behave appropriately, I might consider not pursuing the criminal evidence, but one slip-up, any attempt to bypass the agreement, and you'll go straight to jail." In the days that followed, the transformation at Wilson Construction and Associates was radical. Samantha officially took her position as majority partner and implemented a series of changes. The first was hiring an independent auditing firm to review all operations from the past 5 years. The families from the East Bronx were contacted and given back their properties, along with compensation for their losses. Gladys was one of the first to be reimbursed, and she cried with emotion when Samantha personally appeared at her home to deliver the final deed. "My dear," Gladys said, hugging Samantha, "your father would be so proud of you." "I hope so, Gladys. I hope so." Samantha also implemented changes in the company's working conditions. Outsourced employees, including cleaning, security, and maintenance staff, received significant raises and better benefits. She established a strict code of conduct against any form of discrimination or harassment. Margaret was promoted to Director of Compliance, responsible for ensuring the company operated legally and ethically. The secretary, now 70, was radiant with her new responsibility. "I never imagined at 70 I'd get a promotion like this," Margaret said, laughing. "Age brings wisdom, Margaret, and wisdom is exactly what this company needs now." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. A few weeks after the revelation, Samantha was in her new office when she received an unexpected visitor. It was Bradley Wilson Sr., the company's founder, an 85-year-old man everyone believed had been secluded at home since his wife's death. "Mr. Wilson," Samantha exclaimed, standing to greet him. "You can call me Mr. Bradley," the elderly man said with a weary smile. "I came here to meet you in person and apologize for my son's behavior." "You don't have to apologize for him." "Yes, I do. I'm the one who raised that monster. After my wife died, I stepped away from the business and let him do as he pleased. It was a terrible mistake." Samantha offered a chair to the elderly man and sat beside him. "How did you find out what happened?" "Margaret told me everything. She's worked for my family for decades. She's like a daughter to me. When she told me what you'd done, I couldn't believe it." "Are you angry with me?" Bradley chuckled softly. "Angry? My dear, you saved my life's legacy. This company meant everything to me and my late wife. Watching it become what it was becoming, it was slowly killing me. And now? Now I can die in peace, knowing it's in good hands." Samantha felt her eyes well up. "You're not going anywhere anytime soon. I need your experience and wisdom to rebuild this company. You honor me with that offer. I'll be your advisor, if you'll have me." From that day on, Bradley became Samantha's mentor. He returned to the office regularly, not to work actively, but to share his experience and help restructure the company. The patriarch's presence brought a sense of legitimacy and continuity that was crucial for the transition. Bradley Jr. kept his end of the deal without resistance. He stepped away from the company completely, and rumors said he was attending therapy and trying to rebuild his life away from the family business. Samantha chose not to pursue the criminal evidence further, as long as he honored their agreement. Months later, Wilson Construction and Associates was unrecognizable. The company had become a benchmark for social responsibility and ethical business practices. Samantha implemented affordable housing programs, environmental preservation projects, and partnerships with underserved communities. The case made waves in the business press, and Samantha was invited to speak about leadership and corporate transformation. She always made sure to mention Gladys and Margaret as examples of strong women who had inspired her. During one such talk at a university in New York City, Samantha concluded her presentation by saying, "I've learned that true strength isn't about having power over others. It's about using that power to make a difference in people's lives. Sometimes you have to go undercover to discover who you really are." In the front row, Gladys sat proudly, as if she were Samantha's mother. Margaret was there too, along with several employees who had become like family. After the talk, a young law student approached Samantha. "Professor Parker," the girl said timidly, "my grandmother works as a janitor at a company. She faces discrimination every day but is afraid to speak up because she needs the job. What can I do to help her?" Samantha remembered herself just a few months earlier, scrubbing floors while enduring humiliation. "First, document everything. Record conversations, take photos, note dates and times. Second, find allies within the company, people who'll witness what's happening. And third, never let anyone treat you as inferior, no matter their position." But what if she loses her job? Sometimes, losing a bad job is the first step to finding something better. But with solid evidence, it's unlikely she'll be fired. Employers fear lawsuits too much. The girl carefully wrote everything down and thanked her with tears in her eyes. That night, Samantha returned home reflecting on the past few months. She had lost her father, discovered an unexpected inheritance, gone undercover as a janitor, stood up to a powerful man, and transformed an entire company. But most importantly, she had found a new family in people like Gladys, Margaret, and Mr. Bradley. Upon arriving home, Samantha found a letter left under the door. It was from Bradley Jr. "Samantha, I know I have no right to ask for anything after all I've done, but I wanted you to know I'm changing. Therapy has helped me understand things about myself I'd rather not have known. You showed me who I really was and it was terrible, but you also gave me a chance to become a better person. I'm working on it every day. I don't expect forgiveness because I know I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that your courage changed more than just the company. It changed me too. Thank you for not destroying me when you could have. Bradley." Samantha folded the letter carefully. She hadn't expected an apology, and certainly hadn't expected it to sound sincere. Maybe there was hope for everyone after all. That weekend, Samantha visited her father's grave at Greenwood Cemetery. She brought fresh flowers and sat on the grass beside the headstone. "Hi, Dad," she said softly. "I think you'd be proud of what happened. I found out the money you invested in the construction company was being used for terrible things, but I fixed it all." The wind gently rustled the trees around her, and Samantha imagined it was her father's reply. "I met incredible people, Dad. Gladys, who took care of me when I was little and never knew you'd invested in the company where she was being harassed. Margaret, a brave woman who worked her whole life with integrity. And Mr. Bradley, who reminds me so much of you." Samantha stayed there for an hour, telling her father everything that had happened. When she stood to leave, she felt a peace she hadn't known in months. The following Monday, Samantha arrived at the office to find a surprise waiting for her. The entire cleaning staff was gathered in the lobby, along with Margaret and Mr. Bradley. "What's going on?" Samantha asked, confused. Gladys stepped forward, holding a bouquet of flowers. "My dear, we wanted to thank you for everything you've done, not just for me and my family, but for all of us." The other employees began to applaud, and Samantha felt her eyes fill with tears. "You didn't have to do this." "Of course we did," said John, one of the security guards. "You changed everyone's lives here. Now we're treated with respect, paid fairly, and have health insurance. That's priceless." Margaret stepped closer and hugged Samantha. "Sweetheart, you didn't just transform this company. You gave dignity back to people who had lost hope." Mr. Bradley, leaning on his cane, smiled proudly. "Samantha, your father was my friend. He used to tell me about his brilliant daughter who studied abroad and was going to change the world. I think he was right." In that moment, Samantha realized she had found something far more valuable than money or power. She had found a real family, one built not by blood but by mutual respect and shared struggle. Months later, Samantha's story became a case study in business schools. The transformation of Wilson Construction and Associates was cited as an example of how authentic leadership could revolutionize an organization. Samantha received social responsibility awards and was invited to join the boards of several companies. But she always made sure to carry with her the lessons she'd learned during those 2 months as a janitor. During an interview for a business magazine, the reporter asked what the hardest moment of the entire experience had been. "The hardest part wasn't enduring the humiliations," Samantha replied thoughtfully. "It was holding on to hope that people can change, even when they give you every reason to give up on them." "And do you still believe people can change?" "I have to. Otherwise, what would be the point of all this?" The company continued to grow under Samantha's leadership, always upholding the values of integrity and respect she had put in place. Margaret retired at 75, but stayed on as a consultant. Gladys became a kind of ambassador for the company, visiting underprivileged communities to identify families in need of housing. Bradley Jr. was never seen in the office again, though Samantha heard through the grapevine that he had started a small consulting firm and was working hard to rebuild his reputation. She secretly rooted for his success because she believed redemption was possible for anyone. One Friday afternoon, nearly a year after the revelation, Samantha was organizing papers in her office when she got an unexpected call. "Hello? Samantha? It's Mary Jane from reception. There's someone here to see you. They say it's about Mr. Richard Parker." Samantha was intrigued. "Send them up." A few minutes later, a middle-aged man entered the room. He had a Dominican accent and a weary appearance. "Miss Parker, my name is Charles Miller. I was your father's business partner in Boston." "Mr. Charles," Samantha exclaimed, standing to greet him. "My father spoke highly of you. How are you?" "Fine, thank you. I came to the United States to settle some unfinished business and took the opportunity to meet you in person. Richard always spoke of you with great pride. Can I get you anything? Coffee, water?" "No, thank you. Actually, I came to give you something your father asked me to pass on to you if anything ever happened to him." Charles opened a briefcase and took out a sealed envelope. "Richard told me only to deliver this if you proved you had the character to honor your family's legacy. From the news that reached Boston, I'd say you've more than demonstrated that." Samantha took the envelope with trembling hands and carefully opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter from her father and some documents. "My dearest Samantha, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer here and Charles has judged that you've become the woman I always knew you could be. For years, I invested in various businesses in the United States, not just for profit, but because I believed in the country's potential and its people. Wilson Construction was one of those companies, but I recently discovered things weren't going as I'd hoped. Attached to this letter are documents showing my other holdings in American businesses. They are now your responsibility. Use them wisely, as I know you will. Always remember, true power isn't in money, but in the ability to do good. You have a generous heart and a brilliant mind. I trust you'll use both to build a better world. Love always, Dad." Samantha had to sit down. The documents revealed stakes in over 10 different companies, from construction firms to tech startups. Her father had quietly built an empire in the United States. "Mr. Charles," she said, her voice shaking, I had no idea about any of this. Richard was very discreet about his investments. He believed money should work to do good, not just generate more wealth. And now all these companies are yours, yes, but you don't have to manage them alone. Richard left a trusted team in Boston to assist you. Samantha looked at the documents again, feeling the weight of responsibility. What do you think I should do? Charles smiled. From what I've seen here at Wilson Construction, I think you already know exactly what to do. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us newcomers a lot. Now back to the story. In the following months, Samantha dedicated herself to getting to know each of the companies she had inherited. She discovered that many faced problems similar to those she had encountered at the construction firm: poor management, lack of ethics, and unfair treatment of employees. With the experience she gained at Wilson Construction, Samantha developed a methodology to transform troubled companies. She called the project Authentic Leadership and began implementing it in each new company. The first step was always the same: discreetly infiltrating to understand the real organizational culture, not just the one that appeared in official reports. Sometimes she disguised herself as a contracted worker, other times as a junior consultant, or even as an intern. At a tech company in Chicago, Samantha found that developers worked in poor conditions while executives earned exorbitant salaries. At a supermarket chain in the South, she uncovered evidence of labor conditions akin to slavery. Each transformation followed the same pattern: discreet investigation, evidence gathering, confrontation with those responsible, and implementation of structural changes. Samantha always offered a chance for redemption before resorting to more drastic measures. Margaret became her top advisor in these operations. At 76, the former secretary traveled across the United States with Samantha, helping identify problems and implement solutions. "You've turned into some kind of corporate superhero," Margaret joked during a trip to Miami. "I'm no superhero," Samantha replied, laughing. "I'm just doing what anyone should do: treat others with dignity." Well, unfortunately, not everyone thinks that way. During the transformation of the Southern supermarket chain, Samantha met Dorothy, a 68-year-old employee who had worked there for 40 years. Dorothy was responsible for cleaning one of the stores and was constantly humiliated by the regional manager. "Dorothy," Samantha said during an informal conversation, "have you ever thought about reporting the way you're treated?" "Oh, honey, what's the point? Rich men always win. People like me don't have a voice." "Everyone has a voice, Dorothy. Sometimes you just need someone to amplify it." When Samantha revealed herself as the owner of the chain, Dorothy was one of the first to be promoted. She became a quality supervisor, responsible for ensuring all employees were treated with respect. "Sweetheart," Dorothy said, hugging Samantha on promotion day, "you gave me a dignity I thought I'd lost forever." Stories like Dorothy's repeated themselves in every company Samantha transformed. She had created a quiet revolution in the American corporate world, always working from the ground up. The press began calling Samantha the undercover executive, but she always rejected sensationalist labels. In a television interview, she explained her philosophy: "I don't disguise myself to deceive anyone. I disguise myself to see the truth. When you're at the top of the hierarchy, people only show you what they want you to see. When you're at the bottom, you see reality raw and unfiltered. But don't you think it's a risky strategy? What if you're discovered? The bigger risk is doing nothing and allowing injustices to continue." The impact of Samantha's work reached the ears of other businesswomen and executives across the United States. They began seeking her advice on handling similar problems in their organizations. Samantha then founded a consulting institute specializing in organizational transformation through authentic leadership. The institute offered courses, lectures, and consulting for companies that genuinely wanted to change their culture. Margaret became the educational director of the institute, Mrs. Gladys became the community relations coordinator, and Mr. Bradley agreed to serve as chairman of the advisory board. "I never imagined that at 86 I'd be starting a new career," Bradley said during the institute's inauguration. "Age doesn't matter when you have purpose," Samantha replied, "and you have so much knowledge to share." The institute grew quickly, and began attracting students and professionals from other countries interested in the US methodology for business transformation. Samantha always made sure to tell the story of how it all began, with a humiliated janitor who decided not to accept injustice. 2 years after the first transformation, Samantha received an unexpected invitation to participate in an international forum on corporate leadership in Geneva. She would be the only US representative among the world's top executives. During her presentation at the forum, Samantha shared the full story of her journey. The audience, made up of CEOs from multinational corporations, fell into absolute silence as she described the months she spent working as a janitor. "The greatest lesson I learned," Samantha concluded, "is that true leadership isn't about commanding from above, but serving from below. When you understand people's real needs, you can create genuine solutions." At the end of her speech, she received a standing ovation that lasted several minutes. Many executives approached her afterward, seeking advice on how to implement similar changes in their companies. Back in the United States, Samantha found a new reality waiting for her. Several companies had begun spontaneously adopting practices inspired by her work. The movement was growing organically. One December afternoon, exactly 3 years after she had started working as a janitor, Samantha was in her office at Wilson Construction when she received a visit that left her speechless. It was Bradley Jr. "Samantha," he said, clearly nervous. "I know I have no right to be here, but I wanted to talk to you." Samantha studied him for a moment. He looked different, thinner, with graying hair and a humility she'd never seen in him before. "Have a seat," she said, gesturing to a chair. "Thank you. I wanted to tell you that I started a consulting firm. It's small, but I'm trying to help other companies avoid the mistakes I made." "What kind of consulting?" "Business ethics and diversity. I use my own story as an example of what not to do." Ironic, I know. Samantha couldn't help a small smile. "Actually, I think it's perfect. Who better to teach about the dangers of misused power than someone who's fallen into that trap?" You don't think it's hypocritical of me?" "I think it's brave. It's much easier to hide past mistakes than to use them to educate others." Bradley let out a relieved sigh. "Samantha, I wanted to apologize to you, officially. Not just for what I did to you, but for all the employees I mistreated over the years. I can't undo the harm I caused, but I'm trying to do some good now. Bradley, everyone deserves a second chance. What you did was terrible, but what matters now is what you do from here on out." Can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "Why didn't you destroy me when you could have? With the evidence you had, I could have lost everything." Samantha thought for a moment before answering. "Because destroying you wouldn't have solved anything. There would have been one less corrupt person in the world, but hundreds more would still be out there. Giving you a chance to redeem yourself and use your experience to educate others seemed far more productive." "Thank you," Bradley said, tears in his eyes. "Thank you for believing I could be better than I was." After Bradley Jr. left, Samantha Parker reflected on their conversation. She had begun this journey driven by anger and a desire for justice. But along the way, she had learned that true victory wasn't in revenge, but in transformation. That evening, Samantha had dinner with Gladys, Margaret Johnson, and Mr. Bradley, as they had every Friday for the past 2 years. It was a tradition that had emerged naturally and had become sacred to all of them. "You know, Bradley Jr. came to see me today," Samantha shared during dinner. "What did he want?" Margaret asked, concerned. "To apologize and tell me he's trying to do some good with a consulting firm." "And you believe him?" Gladys questioned. "I think he's sincerely trying to change, and that's a start." Mr. Bradley, who had remained quiet, finally spoke. "My dear, you've taught me something very important these past few years. You've shown me that a true leader's strength lies in their ability to transform people, not destroy them. You're the one who taught me that, Mr. Bradley, seeing how you still had faith in humanity after everything you'd been through." "No, Samantha, you're the one who restored that faith in me." 3 months after this conversation, Samantha received news that moved her deeply. The Institute for Authentic Leadership had been selected by the UN as an official partner in a global organizational transformation program. The agreement signing ceremony took place in New York, and Samantha brought her entire American family with her: Margaret, Gladys, Mr. Bradley, and even Dorothy, who had become one of the Institute's lead facilitators. During the ceremony, the UN Secretary-General spoke about the importance of authentic leadership in building a fairer world. The work started in the United States by Ms. Samantha Parker, and her team proves it's possible to transform organizations, and consequently entire societies, through values like respect, dignity, and inclusion, he said. When it was Samantha's turn to speak, she approached the microphone with emotion. 4 years ago, I was just a woman who had lost her father and discovered an unexpected inheritance. Today, I'm part of a global family of people who believe every human being deserves dignity and respect in the workplace. She paused and looked at her group in the audience. But none of this would have been possible without the people who taught me the true meaning of strength and courage. Gladys, who at 70 still fights for her community's rights. Margaret, who dedicated her life to preserving integrity even when it was easier to stay silent. Mr. Bradley, who showed me that true wisdom comes from humility. And Dorothy, who taught me that dignity doesn't depend on the title you hold. The audience applauded warmly, and Samantha saw tears in her companion's eyes. What began as a quest for justice became something far greater, a quest for humanity. And that quest never ends. After the ceremony, the group gathered at a restaurant to celebrate. It was surreal to be there, 4 years after that first day when Samantha had wiped spilled coffee off the floor at Wilson Construction and Associates. "Do you know what moves me most about this whole story?" Margaret said, raising a glass of wine. "What?" the others asked. "It's that we proved it's never too late to start over. I was 70 when I became a director. Gladys was 68 when she became a coordinator. Dorothy was 70 when she got promoted, and Mr. Bradley was 85 when he became board chairman." "It's true," Gladys agreed. "People always think you can't change after a certain age, but you've all shown me that's nonsense." Mr. Bradley smiled. "Samantha, your father would be proud not just of what you've achieved, but especially of the people you've touched along the way." "I think he'd be proud of all of us," Samantha replied. "Because this story isn't about just one person. It's about what happens when good people decide to come together to make a difference." The next morning, before returning to the United States, Samantha took a solitary walk through Central Park. She reflected on everything that had happened since that first day at Wilson Construction and Associates: the humiliations, the discoveries, the transformations, the victories. She thought of her father and imagined what he would say about it all. He'd probably smile proudly and say he always knew she would make a difference in the world. But Samantha knew the real difference wasn't in awards or international recognition. It was in the small lives she had touched. The dignity restored to Mrs. Gladys, Mariana's new career, Mr. Bradley's renewed confidence, Dorothy's promotion, and even Bradley Jr.'s redemption. When she returned to the hotel, Samantha found a message on her phone. It was from Bradley Jr. "Samantha, I saw your interview on Global News Network about the deal with the UN. I was moved. I wanted you to know my consulting firm is growing. Last month, we helped 3 companies implement anti-discrimination policies. It's small, but it's a start. Thank you for giving me this chance. Bradley." Samantha smiled and put her phone away. Maybe redemption really was possible for everyone. Back in the United States, Samantha settled into a new routine. She continued managing her businesses, now with the support of a skilled team that shared her values. The Institute for Authentic Leadership had become a global reference, attracting students and professionals from every continent. But Samantha always made sure to stay grounded. Every week she visited at least one of the group's companies, speaking directly with employees at every level. She never wanted to lose touch with the reality of the people who worked for her. During one of these visits to a clothing factory in North Carolina, Samantha met Rose, a seamstress who had worked there for 20 years. "Miss Samantha," Rose said during an informal chat, "you changed everyone's lives here. Before, we had no voice. Now they even listen to our suggestions. The changes were made by all of you, Rose. I just created the conditions for it to happen. But you were the one who believed in us. And that made all the difference." Conversations like these became the fuel that kept Samantha motivated. Every transformed life confirmed she was on the right path. 5 years after that first day as a janitor, Samantha decided to write a book about her story. She wanted others to know they could make a difference, no matter their position in society. The book was co-written with Margaret, who contributed decades of corporate experience. They worked together for months, revisiting every moment of that extraordinary journey. "You know what stands out to me most in all this?" Margaret said during one of their writing sessions. "What?" "That you could have just taken control of the company and fired everyone. It would have been much simpler and faster. But also much less transformative," Samantha replied. "If I'd done that, I'd just have replaced one tyrant with another. The point was to change the culture, not just the people." The book, The Janitor Who Became a CEO, a story of transformation and authentic leadership, became an international bestseller. The royalties were donated to a fund providing free education for the children of cleaning staff across the United States. During the book launch in New York City, Samantha made sure to have by her side all the people who had been essential in her journey. Gladys, now 75 years old and retired, but still active as a volunteer at the Institute. Margaret, 79, still traveling the world giving lectures. Mr. Bradley, 90 years old, still sharp and engaged. Dorothy, 73, now a regional supervisor for the supermarket chain. "This book isn't mine," Samantha said during the launch. "It's ours. It belongs to everyone who has ever been underestimated, humiliated, or ignored because of their social standing. It's proof that we all have the power to change the world around us." In the audience were hundreds of people who had been directly or indirectly impacted by Samantha's work. Employees from transformed companies, students from the Institute, executives who had changed their practices after hearing her story. At the end of the event, a young woman around 25 approached Samantha. "Professor Samantha," she said timidly. "My name is Julie. I'm Gladys's daughter." Samantha smiled, moved. "Julie, your mother talks about you all the time. You graduated in engineering, right?" "Yes, and I got an internship at a major construction company, but I'm facing discrimination for being a woman and coming from a humble background. Sometimes I think about giving up." "Don't give up, Julie. Your mother fought so you could be where you are, and remember, you're just as valuable as anyone else in that company, no matter where you come from." "How can I prove that?" Samantha smiled and placed a hand on the young woman's shoulder. "By doing the best work possible and never losing who you are. And if you ever reach a position of power, remember where you came from and help others like you." That conversation with Julie made Samantha realize her story had created a virtuous cycle. The people she had helped were now in a position to help others, forming a network of transformation that kept growing. 2 years after the book launch, Samantha received news that filled her with pride and emotion. Julie had been promoted to senior engineer at the construction company where she worked and had implemented an inclusion program for young people from underprivileged communities. "Professor Samantha," Julie said during a call, "remember what you told me about helping others when I reached a position of power? Well, the time has come. Tell me everything." "I created a program that offers internships to young engineers from low-income families. We've already hired 15 people in the last 6 months." "Julie, your mother must be bursting with pride." "She is. And you know what else? One of the interns we hired is the daughter of a janitor. When I saw her being humiliated by a senior engineer, I remembered your story and stepped in right away." Samantha hung up the phone with tears in her eyes. This was exactly what she had dreamed of, creating a chain of transformation that would sustain itself. That evening, Samantha had dinner with her American family, as she always did on Fridays. Mr. Bradley, now 92, was physically frailer, but still engaged in conversation. "Samantha," he said softly, "I have a confession to make." "What is it, Mr. Bradley?" "When you first revealed yourself at the company, I was terrified, afraid you'd destroy everything I'd built in my lifetime. And now? Now I know you didn't destroy anything. You built something much better on top of what was already there. You took a good foundation and built a cathedral." Margaret, now 81, held Samantha's hand. "Sweetheart, you know I won't live forever, right?" "Don't talk like that, Margaret. It's the truth, dear. But I want you to know that these last few years have been the most meaningful of my life. I never imagined that at 70 years old I'd start a new career and even travel the world. Gladys, also holding Samantha's hand from the other side, added, "You gave us more than just jobs or money, dear. You gave us purpose." Samantha looked at those three people who had become her true family and felt immense gratitude. They had taught her more about leadership and humanity than any course or book ever could. "You know this story is far from over, right?" Samantha said with a smile. "What do you mean?" asked Margaret. "Well, Julie gave me an idea. What if we created an international network of people who use their positions to transform other lives? A kind of quiet movement of authentic leadership." Mr. Bradley's eyes lit up. "That's a brilliant idea, Samantha. Imagine how many people could be impacted if every transformed person helped transform others." "That's exactly it," Samantha exclaimed. "We can start here in the United States and expand to other countries. Create a network of agents of change who work within companies to promote positive change." That conversation marked the beginning of a new chapter in Samantha's life. In the following months, she and her team developed a structured program to identify and empower authentic leaders in companies worldwide. The program was called Seeds of Transformation and worked simply. People in leadership positions committed to identifying and developing talent in employees at lower levels, regardless of their social background. Within 2 years, the program had spread to 15 countries and directly impacted over 10,000 people. Each seed planted generated new seeds, creating an exponential network of transformation. During an international conference about the program, held in Washington, D.C., Samantha had the chance to meet people whose lives had been changed through the network she created. There was Mary, a Puerto Rican janitor who had become a quality supervisor at an American company. Joseph, a security guard from the Dominican Republic who had earned a business degree and become a manager. Sarah, an African immigrant who had moved from cleaning to working in the HR department of a German multinational. "Professor Samantha," Sarah said during a conversation, "when my supervisor recommended me for the company's development program, I thought it was a joke. I never imagined someone would see potential in me. And now? How do you feel? Now I work helping others like me develop their careers. It's like a cycle that never ends." Sarah's comment perfectly captured what Samantha had created, a virtuous cycle of transformation that sustained itself. 10 years after that first day at Wilson Construction and Associates, Samantha was invited to receive a special honor from the UN for the results of the Seeds of Transformation program. This time, she wasn't just representing the United States, but a global movement of organizational change. During her speech at the UN General Assembly, Samantha reflected on the entire journey. 10 years ago, I was a woman who had lost her father and discovered an inheritance. Today, I'm part of a global family of thousands who have chosen to use their positions to lift others up. She paused and looked at the audience filled with representatives from every country in the world. The greatest lesson I've learned in these 10 years is that true leadership isn't about reaching the top. It's about helping others get there too. And that doesn't depend on money, power, or social status. It all depends on the decision to treat every human being with the dignity they deserve. Samantha concluded her speech with a phrase that became the motto of the global movement she had created. Always remember, today, you could be the person who changes someone's life forever. And tomorrow, that person might do the same for someone else. That's how we build a better world, one life at a time. The standing ovation that followed lasted over 5 minutes, and Samantha knew it wasn't just a tribute to her, but to all the people who had chosen to make a difference in others' lives. That night, in her New York City hotel room, Samantha called the United States to speak with her American family. Margaret, now 85, was still sharp and active. Gladys, 79, still looked after her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Bradley Sr. had passed away 2 years earlier at 94, but his wisdom continued to guide the Institute's decisions. "How was the speech, dear?" Margaret asked. "It was moving, Margaret, but what touched me most was thinking about how many people like you, Gladys and Bradley Sr., are out there in the world just waiting for an opportunity to show their worth. And you're giving them that opportunity," Gladys said. "We're giving it, Gladys. because all of this started with you believing in me when I was just a humiliated janitor." When Samantha hung up, she went to the window and gazed at the lights of New York City. Somewhere in that city, and in hundreds of others around the world, there were people working as janitors, security guards, doormen, and cafeteria staff, underestimated and humiliated every day. But now, there were also thousands in leadership positions who had learned to see the potential in every human being regardless of their role or background, and that made all the difference. Samantha smiled and got ready for bed. Tomorrow would be a new day, full of new opportunities for transformation, and she would be ready for them, just as she had been since that first day when she decided not to accept humiliation in silence. The story of the janitor who became a CEO had grown into something far greater, proof that human dignity cannot be bought, sold, or diminished, only recognized and respected. And when that happens, miracles can arise in the most unexpected places. The end. Tell us what you thought of this inspiring story of Samantha and her journey of transformation. Do you believe small actions can lead to big changes? Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know if you've ever been in a similar situation. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more heartwarming stories.